Welcome to the Health and Wealth Power Hour, the podcast that provides you with the knowledge and insights you need to achieve physical, mental, and financial well-being. I'm your host, Arlen Pickett, a business consultant who's passionate about helping people achieve a more balanced and healthier life. Each week, we'll deep dive into topics related to health and wealth, including retirement income planning, innovative healthcare solutions, alternative funded health plans, and specific actions individuals and business owners can take to gain control of their finances, have access to affordable quality health care, and achieve peace of mind. We'll also be joined by innovative experts who will share their knowledge and insights on prevalent topics. So, whether you're looking to grow your wealth or improve your health, you've come to the right place. Get ready to be informed, inspired, and empowered. Let's get started. Yes, sir. It is that time again. It is time for the Health and Wealth Power Hour. My name is Arlen Pickett. I am your host. Thank you for being with us today. Direct primary care, direct specialty care, the attack against fee-for-service, the building of self-funded plans, the attack on traditional plans. You've heard all these kind of things over the years as we've talked about them. But you don't always get to hear it from the folks that we want you to. A lot of times we've had direct primary care doctors on, but direct specialty care, we've only had a few direct specialty care physicians on in the past. The Doctors Musa obviously joined us. They are the leaders of the San Antonio Free Market Medical Association, and they have a very unique story. But today, you get to hear another story from another state. That's right. The great state of Florida is checking in today with one of the co-leaders and co-founders of the Florida FMMA chapter. And we are talking, of course, about Dr. Grace Torres-Hodges. Dr. Hodges, thank you for being on the Health and Wealth Power Hour, and welcome aboard.
Arlen, thank you so much for having me here. I appreciate it.
So we talked a little bit before we got on here, and one of the things that I want to talk about today is how you help folks kind of navigate the system, because navigation of the healthcare system is very, very difficult. But navigating our own pathways of how we got here is sometimes just as complex and just as kind of crazy. Most folks that listen to the podcast have heard my story of how I was a traditional health insurance broker and all the different things that happened to make me move completely to the other side and realize that I needed to address things in a very different way. Of course, I adopted direct primary care, self-funding, all of the things, medical cost sharing, which we do a lot of. But hearing the story of a clinician, in your case, a physician, that has made that journey and realizing it, I think is very important as well. So talk a little bit about who you are and what you do there in Florida and your journey as to how you got to here and kind of out of that traditional system.
Sure. Yeah, it's always interesting when you go back and see where things start from. For me, I'm going on my 25th year in practice. I've been in my own solo practice since 2001. I specialize in podiatric medicine and surgery. I'm board certified, and Pensacola is the town I grew up in. I was born in New York, but I grew up in Pensacola. So it's been wonderful to come back home to my community. I'm a second generation physician. I have this is not new to me as far as medicine is concerned. I have an internist mom and a general surgeon dad. And in podiatry, I actually get the best of both our worlds. Better hours, I always tell them also, because even though we handle both outpatient and hospital, I did the chronic stuff that mom did and got to fix things like my dad did. So it's been really, really nice. And 25 years, things have changed tremendously. I grew up in their office. I did a lot of the free labor in their office, and it's a family-run office. My aunts were the office managers over there. And so I learned a lot of the behind the scenes in addition to watching the doctor work. And so I remember hearing about HMOs and copays as a middle schooler, and which is weird when you think about that. That was in the 70s, 80s when that happened. But nonetheless, and that gives it a little bit of my age, but with regards to my journey in it, I started with paper charts, no electronic medical records. Prescriptions were still handwritten and everything. And there was this thing called a SOAP note that everybody knew how to dictate properly, and we were actually handwriting it still. Ironically, I've gone back to doing that. There's something to be said about, don't fix what ain't broke. But I went through all the gyrations as a solo practitioner that kept an office and still made rounds in the hospital. Went through all the gyrations that the insurance companies started throwing at us between our RVUs changing, co-pays having to be collected ahead of time. When we went through all the things that had nothing to do with clinical medicine that got put into our administrative tasks, the authorizations, the prior the referrals through a gatekeeper, especially as a specialist, when that happened, the electronic prescribing, the electronic medical records, which was supposed to make things a lot more efficient. It just added more to our list of things. And then they started doing these quality measures, PQRS and MACRA. And, when you think about it, it's such an oxymoron, because what did the quality measure according to whom? Quality measure of how efficient I was in doing claim submission, or quality measure for my patient? So it was a lot of these little things, but, something that we talked about a little bit beforehand also. I use a term that I have gotten from Arlen Myers. He's the president of the Society of Physician Entrepreneurs, but physicians were conditioned to conform because we went through this very rigorous training. Once we got into practice, we were kind of on autopilot, you know what I mean? And we hired somebody to do all the business end of medicine, which I'll come back to that, but that's where I think some of the problems came about. But we were conditioned to conform because we follow a very apprenticeship-like training. Our undergraduate years, getting into medical school, MCAT, getting the medical school, getting through our boards, going into residency, and for some that go into fellowship, it is a see one, do one, teach one methodology. So you follow the people ahead of you. And 25 years ago, and I work with a lot of residents also, when I was finishing up, the idea of private practice and employment was still half-half. Everybody wasn't employed yet. The idea of actually hanging a shingle and opening up your shop, that was actually something that was still viable and encouraged. As the years have gone on, as I work with residents and roundtable with them, it is very different. 90% of them are employed now. That changes the dynamic. The other thing you have to remember, the condition to conform, the see one, do one, teach one, you were told when you're finishing up residency, what do you got to do? Well, the only way that you're going to get paid is if you get on insurance, because insurance is the only way that doctors get paid. And these are things that were told to us. Yeah. The only way that patients can find you is that you have to be on a network. So you've got to join every insurance plan you possibly can. And so that's exactly what I did. And that's exactly what everybody does when you finish up. And we are really trying to change that mindset now. But when 2013 came about, I'm going to use that date because I found myself dealing with the onslaught of Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act. And there's that beautiful chart that you see where it should be a doctor-patient relationship, but the doctor's one corner and the patient's the other corner, and then all this mismatch of different federal things that you have to go through, regulations and everything like that. Yeah, it's a famous chart, but which I use always to explain the doctor and patient were separated completely. But what that also entailed was reimbursement rates were going down and more administrative things. And it was one time that my husband and I, he came home and he said, "Come on, let's go to dinner." And I'm like, "No, I've got all this stuff to take care of," because in order to get paid, a lot of people don't realize the whole system is based off of coding, and coding requires specific bullet points that have to be mentioned in the chart, not necessarily associated with what you do, but not relevant to the treatment. At any rate, long story short, he wanted to go to dinner, and I said, I've got this stuff to do, and I got to finish these charts. And actually, they were audits. They were audits because not only can the insurance company pay you, they can go back 3 years and actually get money back and question what you did, even though you cured your patient. Because according to their payment scheme, it didn't follow their protocol. So it doesn't matter if doesn't matter if the patient's good already, but they went back. I said, I need to get this done. And he says, well, what is this doing for the quality of what is your purpose in practicing? To provide the best medical and surgical care for foot and ankle in Northwest Florida. That was always my mission statement. And that had nothing to do with what I was doing that night. Nothing. So, happenstance in an email, I don't know if it's kind of whatever intervention it is, I got this email randomly from this group that said how to thrive, not just survive in Obamacare. And it was from the American Association of Physicians and Surgeons, who happened to have a conference that was one day in Texas. So I flew out to Texas and went to this meeting. And the first lecture I sat in was how to opt out of Medicare and why I should. I had no idea that was even an option. And during that meeting, I learned about insurance and what it was supposed to be doing and what it was not doing for me. I met direct primary care doctors. Josh Umber and Atlas MD was probably in the beginning of their formation. And for those who don't know him, and DPC was direct primary care. Atlas MD was one of the earlier ones.
Yeah,
but I started meeting a lot of direct primary care doctors because they really got screwed by this whole system to start with, because they basically have visits to work with. I have procedures and I have other revenue streams that come into the office that can offset reimbursement rates. But primary care physicians, many times, it's relying on the patient coming in for the visit. So I started listening and hearing from them. And then I met some really cool specialists at that, all from Texas. Dr. Held, who's an ophthalmologist down in San Antonio, I think even. Dr. Jula Pili, who's a gastroenterologist in Houston. And then an ENT specialist from New Orleans, Dr. Giannoli, and Dr. Kathleen Brown, who was a dermatologist at the time. She was practicing in Oregon. They were sick of the system also, because all we want to do when we're in medicine is we want to take care of our patient. That's the main thing. And so I started my journey, got under all their wings, and started following the direct care movement. And I opted out of Medicare and discontinued, terminated all my insurance contracts in 2017. It took a period of time to do that. Yeah. And so that's how I navigated out of the system. And today, what I do, since that time, I help other doctors navigate. I help my own patients navigate out, because, when you think about it, there is no other, from the physician's perspective, private practices, and I should preface that I'm always talking about private practice because that's the primary thing that I've been involved in. Private practices are small businesses. These are small community businesses, and we have to run not only the clinical aspects of our practice, but we have to run the business aspects of our practice too. And the most important thing is keeping revenue stable, cash flow going, to keep the lights on. And when the insurance reimbursement rates are what you're relying on, you've just given away your best tool for adjusting to market pressures. No other business does that. Lawyers don't do that. Dentists don't do it. And the one that really got me, another thing that kind of really pushed me over the edge, was when our toilet broke, because I needed a plumber. A plumber comes over. How do I find them? I find them through it's so practical when you start thinking about it. This is the way things should work. How do you find a good plumber? You ask your friends. So I asked my friends. That's my network. That's the network that I went to ask for who I needed to come. They came to the house. They evaluated. They gave me a price. It was transparent. We negotiated. We agreed on something. He took care of the problem. I paid him, both parties happy. That's how direct care works also in medicine, and it's funny, but little things in life showed us how to do it again in medicine. And now, I mean, I'm so happy with it. I mean, there's so many things that we can, the positives of it, not just me personally being, keeping my practice afloat, being able to serve my community, but mentally, and, the amount of physician burnout and people leaving. I have so many friends that have left, but also from a patient's perspective, if you don't have a healthy doctor, they can't take care of you healthy also. So overall, I think it's we talked about navigating, it's my mission these days is to take care of my patient and to teach others about free market medicine. So that's the long and short of it.
Well, no, I think that's great because one of the things that you mentioned in there that I believe is one of the biggest burdens that you'll hear from any physician that hasn't broke free: administration. And they have more people working in their office in a non-clinical role than they do working that can actually help somebody.
Absolutely.
And I heard a crazy number, and I verified this with a few hospital executives, that in a hospital, there are 5 administrative people for each bed.
That's ridiculous.
So for each bed that's in there, there's an average, not for just that, you're not that bad, but that's how you can count how many admin people work for a hospital. Basically 5, it equals out. It used to be 3, but now it's up to 5. So if it's a 100-bed hospital, that means that there's literally 500 people works for that hospital that do nothing but administration, not a single bit of clinical work whatsoever. So back to kind of what you were saying.
From the hospital's perspective, they're paying this person a salary, that's a cost measure that they have to account for. And what's their revenue coming into the office, to the hospital? It's reimbursement rates from insurance companies, which keep going down. So what do? They jack the number up a little bit more, and it's a vicious cycle. In my own practice, and most direct care practices that have transitioned from traditional, the insurance-based medicine practices, we've dropped our overhead by getting rid of the extraneous staff, because, or in my case, I repurposed them and found them to do clinical things, which they were hired to do to begin with. And so from an internal perspective of a physician office, but also patients can see it, because you're having to deal with number of people to take care of one issue that you have. You have to talk to this person, this person. You want to talk to that person that's going to help you directly. And so, it's very convoluted.
And then you get the other side of it, a practice that is growing, but can't hire yet. And you end up, as I just talked to a physician a couple of days ago, he says, my nurse is pretty much a full-time admin person now too. She spends all of her time doing administrative stuff. And so I have this high-paid clinician, high-paid nurse that is doing all these other things because we can't yet afford to hire someone to do those things. But when I literally told him, I said, you can't afford not to.
Right.
You've got to, because you can't move forward if your nurse is always doing these other things.
Well, if you not only do you have those to do the referrals and the authorizations, but when the denials come in.
Yeah.
So there's this. I wrote a book. I don't know if you knew that, but I wrote a book called Private Practice Solution. It's on Amazon, and it is subtitled Reclaiming Physician Autonomy and Restoring the Doctor-Patient Relationship. It recently won the 2024 Independent Press Award for medical nonfiction, which really freaked me out. And
congratulations, that's awesome.
And so it really freaked me out, because I wrote this book out of just my experience to teach other doctors about what's going on and how to save themselves from a broken system. The fact that it actually won an award means non-medical people read this. And what was really cool was that I went to New York to get the award along with my editor. And you know, we talked, there weren't any, that's not my normal crowd that I hang out with as far as conferences are concerned. These were, it was beautiful. It was just regular folk who had like passions about different subjects. Mine happened to be about medicine and how to survive in it. But I didn't hear anyone that didn't understand the plight that we're dealing with right now. When we would tell what our purpose of writing the book was, I had more shaking heads and more people coming up to me and says, I need to get a copy of that book. I need to get a copy about that book. At the beginning of my first chapter in the sections, I actually go through the history of how it was never, insurance was supposed to be a good thing, and then it turned into something. It was there. It's a risk management tool to help with healthcare expenses. But the number one reason, one of the top reasons of bankruptcy in the United States now is debt associated with healthcare costs with those with insurance. And so I was teaching them all about how to ask for cash prices. And this was at a book camp. It's not at a book award place, but I was very blessed to get that. But in my book, I go through the revenue cycle. And if you think about the revenue cycle of any small business, it's getting a customer in, taking care of the customer, and getting paid for doing the service for the customer. It's just a very simple thing. But in medicine, in insurance-based medicine, there's an offshoot tangent that goes into this abyss of we don't know what's going to happen to it. It'll either go back to us and get paid. It will need to go through, and it goes through extra gyrations of having to get extra additional information, or it can just go into a circular file and go someplace else and not ever be seen or denied. And like contractual denials, that how are we supposed to know that? That's a patient's own thing. There's so much we can delve into here, but all these little frustrations. But from the patient's perspective, because that's my thing always, I'm always worried about the patient. It delays their treatment also. The prior authorizations result many times in patients abandoning their treatment. That is not good medicine. The delay of me trying to get the patient into to get a test run, that period of time I deal with sometimes overnight, a thing can change into gangrene. I would need that. I need that done sooner than later, and when it doesn't happen, then you play the system, you get them admitted, which is jacking up the price for them altogether. So there's so much broken with it, but trying to find something to do my part to leave something better.
So when you talk to other physicians, and obviously not everyone is in podiatry like you are, this is not just a problem that you have, right? We're talking about across the board. Whatever discipline they're in.
It doesn't matter what specialty you're in. Yeah. No, this is across the board, particularly if you're in private practice. I mean, I feel for those that are hospital employed, because they're just cogs in a wheel. They have no say in it whatsoever. But in your own private practice, it doesn't matter what specialty you're in, whether you're primary care or specialty care, which I go off on this a little bit too. The designation of primary care and specialty care is an insurance term. No one goes into primary care residencies. Think about it. There's no such thing. I'm going to finish my primary care residency. No, you finish family practice, you finish internal medicine, you finish OBGYN or pediatrics. The insurance companies designated the term primary care as a gatekeeper because they wanted to push if you go back to history, they wanted to push the initial visit to then siphon out to everybody. When you look at the Oxford definition of primary care, it is the first encounter outside of a hospital setting. That is every small private practice. And so, the terms have been completely turned around.
So do you feel like, because this makes sense to me, that terminology then was created back in the 80s simultaneously with HMOs?
I'm almost positive it was. I looked it up at one point in time, but yeah, it was really to get that referral base through. And they were trying to almost like the preventative care things. You needed to bring the patient in they wanted to train patients to come in to see their primary care doctor regularly. And so they termed it that way.
Well, and it's interesting you say this, and I can say all this times I've been talking to folks, I never tied that together until now that you say that. But I've always had primary care, especially direct primary care physicians say, well, we were trained to do more than what we do in the traditional system, then more than we can do, more than we're allowed to do.
Right.
Which is why DPC, doctors, direct primary care, advanced primary care, use the terminology you want to. Right. That's why they say 80 to 90% of the things that are going to we can take care of those. Uh-huh. So there's less referrals to specialists at that point in time because it's got to kind of get beyond where their traditional and their regular training would go.
Exactly.
So, there's a point. So I'm just going to go with podiatry. I'm guessing that you handle people that have a little more severe issues with, say, diabetes with foot issues, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that something that you would take care of?
Absolutely. Right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I the whole gamut. Yeah. Because I did.
And so, right. But if there's just a little bit of in other words, if there's not a foot problem involved there that hasn't kind of let go because a person's not taking their medicine or whatever, then the primary care doctor is perfectly capable of taking care of everything that's going on with diabetes.
Yeah, in general. Yeah, absolutely. That's the whole point. The specialist really should be able to take care of a very specific condition. And it's a level above, that first encounter, right. To get into more, to hone in more on what's going on specifically. Diabetes happens to be one. But one of the neat things with the way that I'm able to practice now, even as a specialist, I take care of podiatry is wonderful in the sense that I deal with infants all the way to seniors. So I do see a whole lot. We have a lot of specialties within our specialty, which is also nice because we deal with pediatrics, sports medicine, surgery, orthopedics, and so there's a lot of like preventative care that I can do now. And the goal of, again, the terminology, healthcare should be promoting health, right. And being proactive and being preventative. And when we have that time to work with our patients, I encourage, just like going to the dentist to get their teeth checked, come to see a podiatrist twice a year. You rely on your feet to walk everywhere, and you assume that they work for you, but you want to make sure that, like in a young individual, a lot of gait abnormalities, foot deformities occur in children. And so, I try and promote that. And I work with my pediatricians in town to tell them, have them just come in for one visit so that we can make sure that there's nothing going on with it. Because especially now that they're playing all year round sports, that puts a different spin altogether. But yeah, the primary cares that are doing DPC, yeah, they can do a lot more with there. We all went through similar training. It's just that when we went into our specialties, outside of that primary care, you honed in on and focused in on very unique ways of treating, whether it's surgical techniques or other modalities of treatment.
So what have been some of your biggest challenges since you don't take insurance? Some of the biggest, I'm going to say, first of all, with the system in general, but more specifically with dealing with patients who are trying to figure out, what do you mean you don't take insurance?
Well, that is the first one. There's this misconception that in order to see a doctor, you have to have insurance. Insurance is a means for paying. It is not what I'm doing. And so I always use the term healthcare does not equal health insurance, and make sure that they understand they are very, very, very different. So getting them out of the mindset, getting people out of the mindset, getting doctors out of the mindset, getting patients out of the mindset that you have to be in network to take care of somebody. That's number one. The idea as a surgeon, they go, oh my gosh, your prices must, and a specialist, they must be out the wazoo. I'm not made of gold. I'm like, no, that's not the case. A lot of the inflated pricing that you're seeing from hospitals and from anyone else, the reason why our price lists when we use insurance have to be high is because we have no idea what any of the other insurance companies are going to be paying. So you have to put a high level on your price list so that your reimbursement rates on your fee schedules can fall within that realm. You're never making that much. And the difference between when I did my stats and looking at when I was still in insurance, I would charge and I would only get 51% of 51 cents to the dollar of every effort that I put out. Whereas now, it's closer to 90, and it's 94. I think the reason why it's not completely is because I do a lot of freebie. I'll do a lot of freebie care, which I don't count there, but believe it or not, it's the charge card bank, the bank charges that across the tops. That's another thing. But yeah, I mean, the difference in that, in running a small business, you're only getting 51% versus 90%. That's huge. Now I can spend time in the office. I don't have to see as many patients. They think that, it must be hard to get in to see you. That's the beauty of anything in direct care. It's accessible, it's available, it's affordable. The idea that they always think of money. A lot of people think of medicine as being money driven. It's really, no, we want to take care of our patient. I don't care how you pay me. I'm bound by insurance to accept their reimbursement rate. But if I have a patient and I live in a community that we have farmers that wants to pay me with eggs, I will take eggs or barter services. You don't have that. I can make payment plans with them.
Right.
I can do, even with major surgeries, I can negotiate for them with the facility and with the anesthesia. And so there's a lot of ways around it. What I always tell patients is that think about when you're working with a mechanic or your home contractor. That's the way you want to do. You talk back and forth. You can see the line item of how much things cost, but then you work it together. I don't have to see as many patients, so because my reimbursement rate is better now compared to what it was before, so I can budget my time there. Patients, when they get the price up front, they can budget for it,
right?
Just like they did before. It really, from the physician's perspective, it's a scary jump to it because you get used to. I've always been kind of minimal with with the way I live and the way I do things, but when you get dangled a lot of benefits with a high salary and everything, and you start buying a house, a car, and everything like that, and you get used to a certain lifestyle, sometimes the idea of having to drop down and possibly, go back a little bit to resident level to start back up again, it's kind of scary. And that is probably the biggest objection from physicians, is that they're worried about revenue with that, which is understandable. But from a patient's perspective, I have time to volunteer in my community clinic, so I'm actually helping more people. Because there's this, again, misconception, you're doing it for the money. I'm like, no, it's doing it to satisfy my ability to share what I can do to help you. So not only am I seeing my patients in the office subsidize my ability to go out and work in the community, and you'll see a lot of direct care doctors having that freedom now to do that. So
how have you had any issue with facilities to do surgeries, facilities to work healthcare? So here you are, you're performing healthcare, and this guy needs some surgery, and now you need to have it at this facility, and you don't take insurance. They're like, say, wait, who are you again? What are you doing? What do you want to use my facility to do? What? And Blue Cross ain't paying us, or United ain't paying. What? Who's paying me? How's this work? What's going on?
So 10 years ago was a little different conversations than what we have now. I could tell you that much, but it was never that big of a deal, because what a lot of people don't realize is the breakdown of how surgeries are covered. I don't work, again, as a private practice physician, private practice surgeon. I'm on staff at all the hospitals locally. I'm on staff at ASCs, ambulatory surgery centers also. My surgeon's fee was always separated from the anesthesia and facility fee. So that did not become a big issue. But with these high deductible plans, you felt bad for your patients that had to have a procedure done, and they got, it ended up being, a very high price because they had not met their deductible yet. The nice thing about direct care is that I can negotiate and bundle my services along with a negotiated rate with facility anesthesia to actually take care of that patient properly. Patients can use their insurance in those instances. It's their choice, though. So I give them the option to do that. In the end, it's amazing. The patients also, even when I see them here in the office right now, I will give them a receipt after we're done with a visit, whether I just see them for a consultation or actually do a procedure in the office, or give them a treatment in the office. I'll give them a receipt. And they had the option to file themselves in their insurance plans. And I think when they realize and have gone through that, and what a big headache it is to do that, they are my best advocates for I don't have to sell them on direct care. And they are the ones that will spread the word. And it's really, again, having been now in this for 10 years and watching that progression, it really has changed. I think COVID changed a lot of things for us because there's not a direct care doctor that had to stop or close office because of COVID.
Right.
We were still in contact with our patients because it comes down to that doctor-patient relationship and the communications with them.
So you're kind of now getting a direct contract with facility to provide those services. That's how you're able to bundle that, right? You're saying, hey, let me do that. And you're right. That's changed a lot in the last 10 years. It's changed a lot just in the last 5 years.
Right.
Facilities being open to those direct contracts. Yeah, I think it's interesting because insurance companies to a certain degree have changed too, because they certainly didn't want that. They didn't want anyone direct contracting. In fact, a lot of the contracts that were out there, they said, you're now in violation of our contract because you can't go out there and get these contracts, even with employers, so much less with a physician such as yourself. But they didn't want these folks going out there and doing contracts directly with businesses either. Do that. But there's been enough pushback on that we're kind of past that in most areas. Not everywhere, but in most areas, we're kind of past that. So that's opened those doors up for you as well. So that's cool to know that you've taken those steps.
The part of Florida where I live in, it's high Medicare, obviously, because we've got senior population, but it's high TRICARE also, which is a lot of military vets, and so I really feel bad because I don't think the traditional insurances have been good stewards of their money. At the last FMMA meeting in Oklahoma City, Dr. Marty McCary, I quote him on this now, he put out a nice explanation of what the system is. It's a broken system, and they're playing both sides. They are the firefighter and the arsonist at the same time. Insurance companies are, because they are working both sides of the system. No one wins. It's like a casino. The house will always win in that. And we are just both patients and physicians are pawns in the midst of that. And so I don't think anyone likes to be had that way. And when we make it apparent to them and educate them about that from all of our perspectives, from a physician perspective, from a benefits perspective, patients are a lot more savvy these days. I think my younger patients get it also and younger doctors you're seeing a lot more younger doctors finding out about direct care. That's a big population that I work with, especially trying to work through FMMA, trying to work through with the Benjamin Rush Institute. Jack and Kathleen Brown are leading that right now. And we have to get it into our younger doctors because it's like you're watching them go down. You don't want them to fall off the cliff. You want them to stay practicing. And what's so sad is that more than 50% of doctors don't want to tell their kids to go into medicine. We want to attract good people into medicine. We want to keep good doctors in medicine. And in private practice, I just don't see that there's a way to continue on in an insurance-based model without basically you're handcuffed. It's golden handcuffs. You're stopped because you have to abide by their rules. And so I encourage all patients to really talk to their doctors about this, because you'll get a better and a healthier doctor out of it, which will help you also.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had some conversations about this with Dr. Flanagan, Clint Flanagan, as well. And we had a great conversation about fee for service, which he believes is kind of the root of all of this, right? The fee for service then really brought in. I mean, it feeds right into the insurance world
because it's transactional at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's and if you try to do something different than that, insurance companies don't even understand what's happening. They have no way to respond to it. It's really interesting. We were working with a group here out of San Antonio, but a pretty large organization, and they wanted to bring DPC in. They wanted to bring advanced primary care in because nobody knows exactly what all this stuff is completely, but they knew they wanted advanced care for their people. And we're there, we're talking about all these different things, and all these ideas are being thrown out. And the guy who was leading the thing says, this is what we want. We want primary care as part of it, and we want physical therapy as part of the primary care. We want chiropractic as part of the primary care. We want medication. So whatever you're bidding on, we want all of these things as part of it. It's, in other words, zero out of pocket. Someone's got this, they get all these things. We're all kind of scratching our head a little bit. Like, I see what you're saying. Okay, we understand where you're going here, but so we're asking questions, and the guy, and this just told us where we were at. The guy says, well, hold on a second. This gentleman over here is from the Blue Cross Blue Shield Association. I'm sure he can help explain it to y'all. And this guy looked like deer in the headlights. He's like, I haven't understood anything y'all are talking about the whole time I've been here. He said, I'm here to try to learn. I thought I could come in here and someone could explain to me what you wanted, because I don't know any of these terms.
Right. What's sad is doctors who are practicing in that don't understand those terms also. So, a lot of when I'm working one-on-one with doctors, I explain to them, many don't know the difference between copay, co-insurance. Now, I'm married to a benefits guy, so I learned a lot of this through the years. But even I had to learn about fully insured and self-funded, and so the simplest thing that I tell patients a lot of times, and as I talk, this is one of the nicest, because I do talk to them about their own insurance plans. I go, even your own insurance plans, think about it. Your premium covers what? It covers these services, but it's covering services through your employer that will cover the whole gamut of things. You're paying for prostate services. Do you realize that? And then talking to a female, and then talking to a male, you're paying for your pregnancies.
Pregnancy, yeah.
But you're paying for things because the whole group had to pay. And there's no incentive for people to want to save money. They just want to use their card all the time, thinking that you need the card in order to save. Whereas if they went and looked at self-funded plans, the money that you save comes back to you. And as a small business owner, so I can speak not only as a physician, but as an employer, that's a big thing. You want to be able to bring it back, and you want to be able to control those expenses. And you want to incentivize people to stay healthy, but also to have personal responsibility. And I think that's what a lot of direct care does. That is what self-funded and self-insured plans do. But it's about taking responsibility again with that. So
one of the things that you don't have kind of as not taking insurance is you don't have a list of all these other people that take insurance, if you did, that you could refer someone to if you brought someone in and it was outside of something that you do. Maybe in just the whole process of it, you're like, my gosh, your blood pressure is off the chart. You need to see a cardiologist or whatever. You don't have that. So how do you overcome those types of situations?
Ultimately, it's still the doctor who I want to refer to. It's the quality of the doctor. I don't care if they're in network, if they're in network or not, but one of the ways that we can always test the system is this. I always tell patients, ask what the cash price is. Because if any physician, any facility, any lab can't answer that question, they are part of the problem. Because they need, and I'm not trying to denigrate them or anything like that, but that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
But even when I'm talking to my patients that are in hospital-based practices, I talk to the doctors over there because my referral base hasn't changed from when I went into direct care. Patients, I always tell the doctors, it actually is easier for your staff now. There's no referral. Have the patient call us and let the patient make the decision whether or not they want to come in and see. We'll tell them what our cost is for a new patient visit. But your referral base doesn't change. I will send to who I think is the best for that patient. If they're not a direct care doctor, ask for a cash price. If they are a direct care doctor, that's fantastic. But to be honest with you, my job with that patient is to get them to the right person. Sure. It's not to pay for it. That's something that the patient has to be able to figure out for themselves.
Right. No, I agree with you 100%. My concern or my thought there is how do you find that physician? And kind of what I was laughing about is you don't have this giant list to say, oh, give me your insurance so I can get online here and look for all the cardiologists that are in your network.
Right.
That doesn't tell you anything about quality.
You have that help. Right.
You don't know anything about the quality at that point in time. But how are you finding a physician, or do you just have this great little network of physicians that you have built relationships with over the years?
When I'm here locally, that's one of the ways that I go with. But now with direct care, we have alliances around the country.
Yes.
And, the nice thing about, DPC Alliance is around, Direct Specialty Care Alliance is around. Even on the Free Market Medical Association list, we know who the sellers of healthcare are, and it's word of mouth. Word of mouth will always go further than anything else. You can look at metrics. Nowadays, we look at reviews also online. Patients are very savvy at looking at reviews online, like Google and all those, because that's just the reality of it. But when it comes to taking care of people, we network with the people that we know and then reach out. And so just like when I was looking for that plumber, it's just the same thing.
All right. Right. No, I agree. What I really wanted to point out there for people that are wondering, well, how are you going to help me find a doctor? Is that there are certainly ways outside of that list. But I also want people to understand is that list there's no guarantee of quality whatsoever.
Absolutely.
We have literally had conversations with insurance companies where we've asked them if based on quality scores, we could eliminate the bottom 25% quality doctors from their list. And their answer is no. But those people have those physicians because it says doctor doesn't mean it's not always right. I mean, you probably have met some too that you wouldn't refer to somebody.
Yeah.
But here's the bottom line. The insurance company says they have as much right. These folks have a license. They're in good standing and they have a contract with us just like this other guy that may be the best doctor, best orthopedic surgeon in the state. But the guy who is the worst has just as much possibility to randomly be at the top of the list as that person does, and we can't change that by our contract.
Yeah, because the reimbursement rate for the code that they're charging for is going to be the same whether you do it right or do it wrong. and that's, don't even get me started on a single payer, because that's when you start getting into. Yeah, there's no incentive. There's no incentive for a doctor except bragging rights on the quality scores within an insurance network to do well. You get paid for that code, the CPT code, or the current procedural the CPT treatment code, and whether or not you did it right or did it wrong, you're just going to get paid for that. And so there's no incentive to improve on that. And so I don't know. That's just, it's, to me, it's a little bizarre.
I've never thought about it that way, Grace.
Yeah.
I've never thought about it. I turned it in. It doesn't matter if I did it right or not. I still get paid. I've never thought about it that way. And if I did it wrong, there's actually a chance I'd get paid for it again by doing it the second time. So,
It's such a weird system. And, you know, I don't know how I know how we all got into it. We were conditioned to conform. So, but yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for direct care. I'm excited for free market medicine these days, because I think people are waking up and realizing what's truly important. And, you know, doctors are finding their passion for medicine again. And that's making happy doctors and happy patients at the same time. But people realize you know, what is that? What's the term that they always say? The curtain was open. They can see what's behind the curtain now.
Yeah.
What's going
Yeah.
on.
Well, you know, and it's interesting because folks, depending on your age, you may or may not know this, but this is nothing new. This is what happened every day 50 years ago. 50 years ago, this is the way it was. It was almost unheard of for a physician to work for somebody, even at a hospital. The doctors didn't work for the hospital. The hospital was here. The doctor, just like Grace, had their own practice, and they also did and billed separately at the hospital. They didn't work it for an insurance company. I mean, we have tons of United Healthcare is the largest employer of physicians in the country. How does that make sense, right?
Right.
In fact, over 77% of physicians in the country now work for someone else. The independent practice is going away.
Yeah.
But it's not. I'm here to tell you it's not. It's coming back. Those numbers, in my opinion, in the next 10 years, those numbers are going to start going back down, and it's going to be a noticeable amount because physicians are fed up.
I agree. I mean, you definitely will notice that. Every year, Medical Economics puts out a survey, and in 2017, 2018, they changed the wording. They said, what is ruining medicine for physicians? And 70%, seven of the 9 things that were noted were all insurance-based. So, you know, I'm really excited because, like I said, I work with a lot of residents and younger doctors too, and trying to train them. And I think a lot of us that are seasoned are also relaying back to them that, you know, this is, like you said, this was the old way of doing medicine. I'm old enough to remember when my doctor came to my house to visit us, to give us our pediatrician gave us our shots at home. You know, I still do house calls, you know, so it's coming back, and it's kind of fun because, again, it's always down from a doctor's perspective is the relationship you have with your patient. You know, you can help them. You know, you're doing the best you can for them. And the patients really appreciate it too. So that's what I want from my doctor. I mean, I have a DPC doctor for that reason. You know, it makes a big difference with that. So I agree with you. I think it's going to change. I think we're in a very exciting time right now for free market medicine and direct care.
No, I agree with you. I think we really are. Yeah, and it made me think about what you just said about physicians saying what's wrong here, and 7 out of 9 were related to insurance. I think if you ask a common person, not even physician, just a regular person or an employer, what do you think's wrong with healthcare, or what do you think is wrong with accessing healthcare? I have a feeling that the answers that they would give would revolve around issues that are directly related to insurance as well, whether they realize it or not. I think you would see, you know, long waits to see a physician. Well, why is that? Well, it's
vicious cycle.
You got to wait a month or more. You got to wait the average of 38 days to see a primary care doctor. Why? Because they've got to see so many people every single day that it takes you forever to get in, and you know all the other parts of that. Why do people go bankrupt? Right? Well, because if you have an Obamacare plan, your deductible is this year's $9,150, and next year's going to be $9,400. People don't even have $700 in the bank.
Yeah.
Why didn't I get my treatments? Well, I didn't get my treatments because I couldn't afford to get my treatments.
Yeah, and And that's, one of the things that why didn't I get my treatment? And it was almost like an entitlement that they expect it to be there. I will tell you, my patient base is healthier. And the reason why, before, when it was just a copay, it's like, oh, I can just go and see the doctor. I can go and see the doctor. And then we treat it. And again, we're being reactive to an ulcer because the ulcer was just being treated each time. I'll use diabetes as a thing, And so this patient would just come in regularly. Now, if I have a patient that has an ulcer, they want to get that better because they have skin in the game because they have to pay every time they come in and see me. But they don't want to go to the other doctor because they're not getting that one-on-one care. And I'm being more innovative with the way that I'm treating it. And we're not just treating just the condition. I'm asking them, what are you doing at home? How are you eating? Are you eating the right things? Are you hydrated? Are you, who's your help at home? There's a lot more that goes into healthcare than just what we see clinically in front of us. You have to ask all those questions because it's what's surrounding them. And so I love that part of the way that I practice now because I can get into all those conversations also. Right. And it just makes for a better treatment. And that's quality care. That's the goal.
Well, there's two parts of that. I think about that particular thing, and there's two parts of it. Number one, there's a chance that the physician doesn't have the time. There's a really good chance the physician doesn't have time to ask all those questions. Number two is if I cure this person, I don't get to charge the CPT code. I need that recurring income. I need to charge that copay. And I want to go back to something you said earlier, which cracks me up because we still see it today, and I know you've heard about it too. I tell people all the time, ask the cash price. Ask the cash price. You're going to be shocked how many times, especially because we have some plans out there now charging $100, $150 for a copay. You're going to be shocked how many times you're going to pay less if you ask for cash.
Uh-huh.
And then I get shocked back when they say, oh, my doctor said they don't take cash.
I've heard that too. I don't understand that. I mean, we still know that in the U.S., don't we?
You have to do no processing. You have to do nothing. They're fixing to give you money right now.
Right.
Well, here's what I have found out. Their doctor never said that. The person at the desk said that because they don't have any way to take it. No one's ever asked them to pay money. They don't have anywhere to put the money. They don't have nothing in their sheet where they can add the money in. Everything's got to be insurance or Medicare or what else. Wow. And they don't have any idea what to do with it. And they didn't want to look stupid by asking someone, what would we do if we got cash?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I mean, that physician owner better, hopefully it's a physician owner. Hopefully you're not to survive if that happens at your window all the time.
You're really not. But it's funny how many times a person at the desk though doesn't know about the billing operations because that person sits back there.
Well, because there's so many different people. One person's dealing with this, one person's with this, so they don't see the whole picture. And when you can see the whole picture, my staff is like that. They know how this flow goes. And so
because you don't take insurance. Because you don't take insurance and you don't take Medicare. And so all of you guys are patient-centric and you're worried about taking care of the patient. Mm-hmm. Part of that is billing, but you've taken so many of the billing options off of the thing.
Exactly.
We take MasterCard, Visa, cash, and eggs. I remember you said you take eggs earlier. So, and I'm obviously being silly there, but there is. But you're not having to deal with all those other administrative things. You guys can focus on the patient. And some of that is dealing with how you're going to get paid. And that doesn't always mean it's going to happen today. It just means we're going to work something out. You don't get to do that when you take insurance.
Right. It's misaligned. And I use the term misaligned incentives.
Correct.
A doctor's responsibility is to their patient. The insurance company is to their shareholders.
Yep.
So they want to try and find as many ways. I use the example of a return visit. If someone comes in for a heel pain and I examine them, the CPT code for that under insurance before there was a CPT code for evaluating them. There's a CPT code for giving them a shot. Okay. If they come back under the auspices of that same problem, I'm not allowed to bill for my thinking. I won't get paid to think about whether or not I need to proceed, but I can charge for the shot, which makes no sense whatsoever. And surgery is even worse because you get the reimbursement rate for the first procedure. If you do multiple procedures, you get half on the next one, half on the next one. Yet my risk on that patient keeps going up because we're working on more things. I don't want to bring that patient back multiple times. United Healthcare was the one that got me on ingrown toenails. I had a kid, and as a mom, I get this. If my kid comes in with 2 ingrown toenails on the right and the left foot, there are some plans back then that would only reimburse me to do 1 foot at that visit. I never did that to another parent. I took care of both feet. I just swallowed whatever the cost I lost on the other one because that's what you're supposed to do. Yeah. But that's how they train you. They try and when they say that they're not practicing medicine without a license, that's practicing medicine without a license.
Yeah. I've always had a real problem with the fact that your insurance company is overruling the care that you and your doctor have decided is best for you.
Right.
And, the more I learn about it, the sicker I get, especially whenever you find out that it was their physician that they hired, usually part-time, whatever, to look at it. And many, many, many times, the physician that is looking at it is not even in the same specialty or the same round.
Oh, yeah. The number of peer-to-peer conversations I had in order to get an authorization for a surgical, I needed an MRI because I was planning a surgical, some type of surgical procedure, would be somebody that had no idea what it was,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we are out of that. We don't have to worry about that now.
Right.
So that's the beauty of it.
Right.
But I would insist that you have to
overcome. Right. Yeah. Those are the things you get to overcome by direct care.
Absolutely. But yeah.
So as we move forward in this whole arrangement, as we see the bigger regrowth or the growth back to, just like the guy said, back to the future, right? So as we move forward with the free market, as we have more physicians step away from the chains and quite honestly, the moral bankruptcy that can occur with physicians not being able to actually practice medicine the way that they were trained. Where are we going? Where do you see the utopia that is going to be? I mean, what is that going to look like fundamentally for both physicians and for patients as well?
I mean, ultimately, it's just a healthier community overall. It's because you're getting the people who have the knowledge of and skills to take care of those who are sick. But the patient also probably will be more in tune with staying healthy. So we're really concentrating on truly sick folks at that point. A lot of the nice things about direct care right now is that we're keeping people out of the emergency room so real emergencies get in there. So from the clinical side, I think it will streamline a lot of things. It could actually allow for more innovation for things. From the payer side and the employer side, I think you're providing a better service for your employees. When you do that, you have a healthier community and less sick days at work as a result of that also. In the end, what's it going to look like? I mean, utopia always sounds beautiful when we think about it, but we just have to take each day as it comes right now. It's hard to get this mindset changed. And, I think it was Pavlov that said, if you want to learn something new, read an old book. And we're kind of returning back to the old way of doing things. And so things come full circle all the time. And I think we're on the verge of returning back to something like that.
Yeah. One of the buzzwords so you mentioned payers. I love our definition of payers versus what insurance companies' definition of payers are, because for insurance companies, they're payers. Just ask them. That's where they fall in. Of course, the payers are actually the people that are paying the premium and the people paying for the care, which is not the insurance companies. But that's neither here nor there. But one of the big buzzwords out there for them is consumerism.
Right.
They really want to put consumerism. And one of my comments is, well, they don't even know what that is. There is no consumerism in any existing plan that's out there that they offer. But what we're actually talking about here is consumerism. We're giving people options on their care, letting them shop for it because there's transparent pricing where they can actually shop for that service, know that they're going to get quality, good quality outcomes. They're able to look at those things.
Right.
So for the patient experience, you already get to see that. You get to see it because that's in essence what people are doing with you right now.
Right.
Some of the businesses that you've worked with, the way that you work with the hospital, because you've got to hear a little bit around that side too. What type of comments, feedback do you get from all these individuals that are seeing this consumerism in an industry that just doesn't have it? It's kind of weird, right? I mean, it's almost such an anomaly. It's where it was, like we said, 50 years ago, but it's such a weird thing right now.
Right.
Got to be hearing some feedback from people outside of it asking, how are you doing this?
Right. I think ultimately it comes down to a big concept in medicine is what we call informed consent.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as a surgeon, we deal with informed consent. As a physician, when we treat a patient, we want to give the person making the decision all the options that are available. And insurance has not done that through the years to anybody, to both those that are the clinical side and those that are in the business side of it either. And I think the more we can get, when I talk to people that don't understand it yet, I think the fact that I'm informing them of this, educating, that's the biggest plug that we can do right now, is to educate more people, because they didn't realize that they weren't given informed consent. They didn't know the whole story. And so when I talk to patients about their fully insured plan, they had no idea. They didn't think that through. When I talk to a doctor saying, no, they're practicing medicine, that authorization person is practicing medicine without a license, because you're the one taking care of the patient right there in front of you. You know what's best for them. So, so when we tell employers that you're not getting all your money back, there's no incentive of that. So I think from an employer, patient, and physician perspective, all three components, if we can inform them and give them truly informed consent, I think that's the way I get around when I'm explaining things. I think they are more enlightened by that. They don't necessarily agree with me to begin with because they think I'm crazy, but and I will tell you that when I first started into it, I think everybody was rooting for me behind the scenes. They just outright told me, "Oh, or you're not going to make it." And so, all these years later, I can sit back and just, I don't gloat, but I'm just happy because I can watch other people improve from it also. So. But I think, getting back to, there's not a quick way to answer that question. I think educating people, being more informed across all the spectrum is the important thing.
No, I agree with you. And we come at it from different directions, as we kind of talked about beforehand. And you do have, you live with a benefits guy, right? So, you have a lot better perspective of both sides. And that, I think that's very valuable for you. I think it is, without a doubt, it's helped you succeed where others may have struggled in other places because they didn't understand how to even talk to us.
Right.
You hear about it all the time. I mean, I have meetings with direct primary care, advanced primary care, direct specialty care physicians all the time where they really don't expect to have a good conversation with me because they've talked to others. They're like, they just weren't interested because I wasn't paying them. I get it. I get it, because they're benefits people and everyone pays them to do something.
Right.
Like, you're a physician. Why would you be paying me? I just need to bring people to you so that you can help them. That's the job. Is I just want to make sure that that your model really is independent, direct primary care, and I'm not putting you. I'm doing the wrong thing for my people because you hung out this sign that was not true about what you really were. I want to have this kind of make sure that our incentives are aligned because I want my folks taken care of.
Right.
I need somebody in your area. I want to make sure you're one of the people that I can trust to take care of people.
Right.
And I get it.
It's the transparency. That's what it needs to be, and I think education, transparency, those are all the buzzwords that we use in direct care, but there's truth to it. And so I think when people realize that, and when they realize that they have more opportunities in this system, it becomes a no-brainer. So
yeah. So I want to give a plug specifically for your chapter of FMMA, fairly new chapter there in Florida.
It's been around. We just haven't been as active. So
okay,
Cordioli down in Naples, and myself, I'm up in the Panhandle. We're trying to get more of the buyers and sellers of healthcare in Florida to get together, meet each other. We talked about networking before. This is how we network with each other. And so, and try to spread the word to the communities in Florida about free market medicine.
All right. So I can connect you with some of my cohorts and other people I know in the Florida area to get you set up with them, get them part of FMMA. And I guess you guys, because you're so spread out, you probably are meeting virtually.
We're meeting virtually right now. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Great.
We'll work our way to an actual meeting.
Yeah. No, well, hey, that's, I'm in Texas, so I understand.
You guys have a big state too, so
Right. That's why we don't have just one. I mean, you guys just have one right now. We have them in the cities all over the place because, we're not having just one. We only see each other whenever we have the annual whole nation meeting, and then that's when we all get to see each other. There's some of us that hang out together at different things. I go to Houston quite often and hang out at theirs, but even like the Dallas one, that's a pretty good distance. So.
But you know what, the really cool thing about all this is that I was, you can talk to the other chapter leaders and you learn from them. I had the opportunity to be in Wisconsin. So I was with Matt Ort up there and I spoke at his conference and got to meet a lot of the Wisconsin folks. And, we are miles apart as far as distance, but we are so similar when you talk to the local communities. And so I'm learning from them on how to talk about this in our areas, how to overcome some of the challenges that we see in our communities. The same thing with Nebraska. Dr. Aguila over there, he's budding also Idaho with David Bouchon up in Idaho. He just started they just started their new chapter and had their first meeting. Fantastic. So there's a lot of, again, it's exciting right now for everybody.
Yeah. And there's also some great partnerships that are happening, like with Health Rosetta.
Mm-hmm.
Those type partnerships where we're working together and see each other's vision. I think those are very important as well, because that spreads it to people who knew about one but not about the other.
Right. Yeah. My input on that is, my husband's a Health Rosetta advisor, so he knows that. So there's an inside scoop on that with us, with talking about it too. So
yeah.
Real good.
Very, very, very important stuff going on out there, folks. I cannot thank you enough for taking time to spend with me. I want you to plug your book one more time, because I really didn't know. How did I not know? And I think I knew, but I didn't know. You know what I'm saying? I think that we talked about this.
I'll make sure you get one. I will send one over to you. But it's called Private Practice Solution. It's Reclaiming Physician Autonomy and Restoring the Doctor-Patient Relationship. It's on Amazon. and just look up my name. It's over there, and share it with other doctors in your community. Read it yourself. You'd be surprised. A lot of patients, my own patients, did not realize all the minutia that goes around in a doctor's office, and it made them more empathetic to the other doctors that they still see, because now they understand the plight that they're stuck in, and it's I don't know. I'm looking at possibly doing a kind of another one for our younger generation for startups more so. This one's really geared towards an existing practitioner, an existing physician that's transitioning out. But startup is key right now also.
But I think what it'll help me with personally is, one of the things when I talk about direct primary care, even if I'm talking to an employer that's not ready to do anything else, I want to try to get them connected with a direct primary care physician, because I think that's the first great step. Once again, but what I have to do is convince them, first of all, that spending more money will help you spend less money.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're paying for the membership to the direct primary care.
You're paying
and I usually can make that happen. I don't struggle with that near as much. What I have the problem with is when that person just gets locked into that sounds like an HMO.
Right.
Set like an HMO. That sounds like well, it's not. So let me explain the differences to you. But I think if I knew a little bit more of those intricacies you're talking about how that office works, that may help me with even some more ammo to help them understand.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Because I talk about the administration. That's a big part of it. But I'm sure you go in a whole lot more levels of depth there that I've probably, once again, have no idea what happens.
Yeah, you'll get something out of it. I think that will help. That will definitely help that. But yeah, it's just getting doctors. I'm trying to work also on the doctor's side. Doctors are teaching other doctors right now how to do that. So, and we'll continue doing that.
And I was at the HINT conference here a couple of weeks ago, and that was a big subject. Big subject. What was great about that is there were so many medical students there.
Yeah. And awesome. We had 80 medical students. Yeah, every single one of those students got a book. So when I speak at a conference, if there's a medical student there, I give them a book because they need that. And that's what the proceeds from my book, that's part of that goes towards them. So that's the future.
You did speak at FMMA, and that's when I remember, and that we had a bunch of medical students there as well. We had a bunch of people with scholarship there. So, all of these movements, it's not just us talking about stuff. We're trying to bring people along, and we're taking action too. And that's what's important. And heck, you took action 10 years ago, but you're still taking that action to help educate others so that they can make that move as well. So I salute you on that for sure.
Thank you. And for everything that you're doing also, Harlan, I appreciate it. It'll take a whole community to do this. And that's what we're doing.
Absolutely. All right, Grace, thank you so very much for spending time with us today.
Thank you for having me on here. And, everybody reach out to any of the direct care doctors out there or doctors that you want to see go into direct care. And if we leave with anything, ask for the cash price. Always ask.
Cash price. That is a great statement. And if your doctor says they don't take it, ask the person at the front desk if you could talk to the billing girl, the billing guy, or the billing person, right? Because they probably don't know. Although I have had somebody tell me we simply do not do it. We don't do it, period, which is kind of crazy. But
wow.
Great advice. Grace, thank you so very much again. Hey, blessings out there. And hey, we'll see you at the next event, wherever that is. But I do look forward to reading your book too.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Harlan.
You're welcome. All right, guys. Hope y'all enjoyed Dr. Grace Torres-Hodges. Make sure you grab a copy of that book, Private Practice. Hey, we'll catch you next time on the Health and Wealth Power Hour. We are out of here.